Hi, I'm Victor from Ignite Within. Today we're going to talk about servant leadership. What is it? And why is it making traditional management as obsolete as Windows 95? There's a reason why so many companies today are moving away from traditional management of employees and moving towards servant leadership of team members. For one, it's really inefficient for a manager to tell employees exactly how to do their jobs and then to stand over them to make sure that they actually do it. As Dr. Stephen Covey said, you can buy a person's hand, but you cannot buy his heart. His heart is where his enthusiasm, his loyalty is. You can buy his back, but you cannot buy his brain. That is where his creativity is, his ingenuity, his resourcefulness. Companies are figuring out that having to crack the whip on their employees to get them to work doesn't work, especially with Gen Z and millennials. These generations absolutely despise being micromanaged, and they're rebelling against it. A large part to why they don't stay anywhere for more than a couple of years is because they don't feel that there is a path to making an impact with that company. So with these up-and-coming generations, what do we do to run effective organizations that can actually retain talent? The answer is servant leadership. What is servant leadership, and how does it differ from management? Servant leadership is all about helping others by giving them what they need to be able to excel at what they're doing. Management, on the other hand, attempts to directly influence how a person does their job, and then watches over them to make sure that they actually do it. That being said, it's easy to see why millennials and Generation Z are so disillusioned with this old system of management and why smart companies are turning away from traditional management. The organizations that are going to win are the ones that are able to unleash the creativity and drive of an individual's mind and heart. Just as technology is constantly shifting, we're also experiencing a shift from management to servant leadership. And if you think about it, advancing technology and servant leadership go hand in hand. In the industrial factory worker age, all companies needed were people who could follow instructions and do what they were told. That is no longer sufficient for the economy of tomorrow, not even in the factories. Engaged factory workers can come up with the best ideas for process improvement because they're immersed in the work on a daily basis, as managers often are not. For companies to be able to gain a competitive advantage and sustain it into the future, they have to have team members that are empowered to come up with creative and innovative solutions. And management does not empower, they do the exact opposite. With management, there is a low level of trust. They believe that if they weren't watching over the shoulder of their employees, that they would just slack off and not get the job done right. And there may be some truth to that. But is that the employee's fault or the manager's fault for creating that low trust environment? Trust is a very fundamental difference between management and servant leadership. With a servant leader, they fundamentally believe that their team member has what it takes to do their job. They don't feel the need to stare over their shoulder. A servant leader sees himself as a resource for the team member, not an authority figure to boss them around. A servant leader is really just like a good parent. They try to make sure that their kids have the tools that they need to succeed in life. They let them learn lessons of what works and what doesn't work. They try to give them as much freedom as possible to learn and grow and to take ownership of the process and the results, whether good or bad. See, when the kid or team member comes up with a method of doing something and then it doesn't work, they want to make it right. They want to find a way that does work. When a manager assigns the employee a method for doing the work, it disempowers the employee and takes away their resourcefulness and initiative. The manager essentially thinks for the employee. As soon as something goes wrong, the employee just throws up their hands and says, "I knew this wouldn't work," Management doesn't know what they're talking about. Then they go and complain to all of their employee friends of how incompetent and restrictive their manager is, absolving themselves completely of the responsibility of getting results. This is the definition of disempowered. I bet if you think back, there's someone from your life that you would consider a servant leader, someone that empowered you. They saw your potential, they looked for the best in you, and they praised you for it. This in turn made you want to be even better, to work even harder, and to come up with awesome solutions to problems. I'm also equally as sure that you've had a manager in your life who has shown no trust towards you. They tried to tell you exactly how to do your job and then corrected you every step of the way. They were constantly looking for what you did wrong. You probably felt anxious or afraid every time they were around you, thinking, what are they going to nail me for this time? This completely stifles creativity, resourcefulness, and initiative. People feel like cogs in the wheel. They don't feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way. There's no ownership of the process or the results. It's no wonder why employees aren't sticking around. In closing, I'd like to say that even though we don't have control over what philosophy our boss lives by, we do have control over ourselves. And you know the best thing about being a servant leader? You don't have to have any authority to be one. Some of the most influential leaders in history, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi, never held any position of authority. And look at what kind of impact they had. Managers have to rely on their authority to get people to do what they say. Servant leaders naturally bring out the best in people by empowering them. So the question is, are you going to be a manager or a servant leader? If you found this content valuable, subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on the new videos. Please feel free to suggest topics that you'd like us to cover in future videos in the comments. We would love to hear your ideas. Your ideas will help us in our mission to share inspirational strategies for a better life. Thank you for watching.